Shalom, all praises to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Rakakodash. Double honors to the elder apostles, the bishops, and the elders of GMS who rule well. Peace and salutations to the elect. My name is Aina. The title of this video is Once You See It, You Can't Unsee It, Part 2. Right, there will be a part 2 there when I upload this. Right, and ultimately, if you watch my last video, just going into the fact that, these devils, are proud, right? They make these movies, and a lot of times inside the movies, things that they do in real life, they show, you know, in the movies, right? And that's why you have things like Pizzagate. Pizzagate is well known. And they have all of that, the different symbols and things inside the clouds and the movies, right? We all know about this, and they with this Epstein list coming out and everything that these PDF files are doing with these children are coming out, just shameful spewing on this devil's glory. I didn't get any precepts for this, but I'm gonna grab it, as we go. I have a Habakkuk 2 and get it from 15 NLT. It says Habakkuk 2 and 15 says, "What sorrow awaits you who make your neighbors drunk? You force your cup on them so you can gloat over their shameful nakedness. But soon it will be your turn to be disgraced. Come, drink and be exposed. Drink from the cup of the Lord's judgment. All your glory will be turned to shame." And these devils are being fully exposed. The scriptures talk about them being the wicked being revealed, right? Second Thessalonians 2, verse 8. And the wicked has definitely been revealed in these last days. You can't get around who is controlling, everything, right? The people know, that the Amalekites, the small hatters, right, control America, right? And that goes into your banking elites who control the money systems of the world. So they control the world. Job 9:24 says the earth is given into the hand of the wicked. All right. And these devils push out movies, they push out music, they push out whatever they want to push out because they're in control. It's not like they don't have control. Right. So when you see a song on the radio and it's talking about adultery, killing one another, this is something that the rulers of the world would need to co-sign before it gets out, right? And that's why when you see, these different, artists and you know, sports players and things like that, when they find out who they are, being the Israelite or even speaking on the Israelite, and then they come out and say something about it, what happens? The small hatters come in, the Amalekites come in, and they demand apology. They strip you, of certain things that you might have. They might, whatever deals you had with Nike and Adidas and all of that, they probably strip those down. All right, you stop getting deals. You're put on the back burner, right? People like Kanye West and things like that, Kyrie Irving, right? You know, what is it? Kodak Black. These different individuals that came out and spoke on the Israelite thing. The people that run the world came out and told them shut the fuck up, before we take everything that you got. And what they do is they bring these people into these different lifestyles, right? There's a sacrifice when you come into these different things. And a lot of times they bring in these children that don't know what the hell is going on, and they grow up into this, So again, these devils are just being exposed, right? People are coming out and they're talking about it, So I'm read this again. Habakkuk 2:15 says, "What sorrow wastes you who make your neighbors drunk? You force your cup on them so you can gloat over their shameful nakedness." Right. So they force you to do these different things, and then they got it on you, right? It's a form of blackmail, you know. It says, "But soon it will be your turn to be disgraced. Come, drink, and be exposed." Right. So these devils were able to operate and control the people behind the scenes, but now we see, that it's them that's doing it. And as the days go on, they will be more exposed. I'm hearing the name Rothschild come out more often, right? And that's touching the very top, pursuant to Job 9:24. All right. And it trickles down because you can get the Balfour Declaration that made Israel a state, right? It was the Rothschilds that co-signed that to allow that thing to happen. And now you have the state of Israel controlling America and bombing everyone in the area with no one seeming to be able to do anything about it. All right. Again, Job 9:24. All right, so these devils will be exposed and are being exposed. Now, going back to this the last one I did, they're making a third one. And we'll see what happens with it. We don't. My saying was that if we make it to 2027, it'll be in the dark. And what is it? It's July. Now, I still believe the same thing, but as days go on, I'm watching and seeing what's happening. These devils are, you know, just bullshit, basically kicking the can down the road. America shouldn't be in the state it is in right now. It should be in a worse state, But they're playing with the numbers, and all of this, and basically what I mean by this time already, all hell should have been breaking loose. People complaining can't get gas, fuel is out, the food, the fertilizer and things like that. But they do say tomorrow, right? Tomorrow will be the 15th of July, right? Yep, July. And they say tank bottoms for fuel. Tank bottoms for fuel, that means higher prices for things, and they already had the shortage of the fertilizer and also a shortage of water. We also had even the cattle and chicken and things like that just dying, factories burning to the ground, these different pestilence and whatnot, you know. So shoot, at any moment now, that switch can be flipped and all hell be breaking loose. All right. And like I said, I don't got too much, probably just a rant talking, whatever. I ain't got too much precepts, going on. But yeah, like I said, like I was saying, if we make it to 2027, it'll be in the dark. They hit tank bottoms tomorrow. It's basically half of the year is already passed, and we'll see what the latter half, brings. All right, but pain, lamentations, mournings, and woe. All right, let me see if I can grab that one. As the scriptures come to me, because that's the only thing that's about to happen. Bear with me. All right, so Ezekiel 2:9, it says, and when I looked, behold, and the hand was sent unto me, and lo, a roll of a book was therein. And he spread it before me, and it was written within and without, and there was written therein lamentations and moanings and woe. All right. So that's pretty much all that's ahead of us, right? We have the end of the world, right? We have, which is the end of an age, right? This current age is ending, and they're trying to enter into a new age, right? A new world order, right? But the scriptures tell us that this transition period that they're entering into right now, pursuant to Revelations 13, when they bring forth this MOTV, is going to bring about their end. All right. Scripture say when they're about to fill their belly, right? Yahweh Bashmi shall rain upon them, right? As it says in Job 20. So this is it. And then the scriptures also talk about Jacob's trouble, right? Jeremiah 30, verse 6, I believe, going into Jacob's trouble. All right. And everything is in line for Jacob's trouble, all right? With the things I just mentioned, Jeremiah 30 and 6, it says, ask ye now and see whether a man will travail with child. Wherefore do I see every man with his hands on his loins as a woman in travail, and all faces are turned to paleness, right? Alas, for that day is great, so that none is like it. It is even time of Jacob's trouble, but he shall be saved out of it. So the he here is the elect, right? Pursuant to Isaiah 65 and around verse 13. But it is Jacob's trouble, and Jacob's trouble is the world's trouble, right? And that's what we're about to enter into. So at any moment, like I said, that switch can be flipped because everything is there. You know, right? Wars is increasing around the world. You know. Anyway, so going back over to this, they're making the third movie. You know, and in the first movie, in the first video I did, I was explaining that this movie showed people or monsters screaming at children and collecting the substance, right, which goes into that adrenochrome, right, that they have, all right, and that's on the Epstein list, that they were talking about. So it says Monster Inc. is a 2001 American animated fantasy comedy film directed by Pete Docter. It's that guy right there. It says and written by Andrew Stanton. Okay. And Daniel Gerson. All right. It said produced by Pixar Animation Studios for Walt Disney Pictures. All right. And again, they're making a third one now. And that's just the proudness, of these devils to even be going through this, situation, because I do believe this movie was inspired by the things that we do to the children. Now they're making a third one. Okay. It says, so anyway, it says it centers on two monsters, James P. Sully Sullivan and his one-eyed partner, Mike Wazowski, right, who are employed at the energy producing factory Monsters Inc., which generates power by scaring human children, right? And they say to get the adrenochrome, you have to scare the children, right, to have the blood, the right things to be released in their body, for when they get the blood. It says, however, the monster world believes that children are toxic. Okay. It says they began developing the film in 1996, following an idea conceived in 1994, right, when Toy Story was near completion, which I think is bullshit. So it first aired, premiered at El Capitan Theater in Los Angeles on October 28, 2001. Right. And it's interesting that it was in Hollywood, which I have a video, about these people talking about Hollywood, so you can look that up. Monster Inc. has a third movie in the making. It says, yes, Pixar has officially confirmed that a third Monsters Inc. film is in active development. All right. They say it's supposed to be out in 2027, I guess. We'll see. This. For use.
Oh my goodness. Pixar just dropped a bombshell that has literally every 2000s kid screaming because Monsters Inc. 3 is officially confirmed and in active development right now. This is not a drill. Just days ago, Pixar's chief creative officer, Pete Docter, revealed the project in a Wall Street Journal profile, confirming that Mike Wazowski and James P. Sullivan, our beloved Sully, are coming back for a third chapter in one of the most emotionally powerful franchises in animation history. Now, here's the thing that makes this even more exciting. This is technically the third film in the universe.
All right. So again, they're making the third one, which will be releasing soon. So we'll see. People are hip. If maybe even it spark thoughts. Going back to these movies and the shit that they doing in the movies now that this Epstein list is out. You know what I mean? All right. So I looked up the dude Pete Docter again. That's him. Yeah, I was trying to see if I could find maybe an image of him where he's looking old as hell. Maybe he was on that adrenochrome. More than likely. That's the guy there. Now, this is it says it's the title here is 19 minutes of child actors exposing Hollywood monsters. Okay, which I didn't read the title, but hey, that's a spirit right there because these devils are the monsters that's scaring the children and extracting the adrenochrome. So, and these type of things here, where these people come out and expose, oh my God, it was so horrible, the thing that he do and all of this. Um, so it's shameless doing wrong. I'm gonna jump to the front and back over here again.
I can tell you that the number one problem in Hollywood was and is and always will be. That's the biggest problem for children in this industry.
He reaches out and places his hand on my knee. I get goosebumps.
Right. So that was this one right here I'm about to play right now.
Wouldn't exist.
But if Dustin's story is heartbreaking, Jeanette McCurdy's experience on Nickelodeon takes things to a whole new level.
Play to get even. Mama plays to win.
What were the pitfalls of child fame?
You're playing an adult's game. You're in an adult's world, and you don't recognize that. You're incapable of being on that level, but you are confused and you think that you are. And I think it really leads to
It's like like this kind of came and went. With this was like before the Epstein list. These actors would come out and expose, and speak on like their problems, whatever the case may be. This is big like the Epstein list. This is like victims of Epstein. It's coming out now and saying, these people did these horrible things to me and whatnot. Some make it through the cracks. Because they usually sacrifice them and get them missing and all of that.
stunted personal development.
Jeanette didn't hold back in her memoir, exposing how she was manipulated by those she trusted most. She opened up about the toxic environment on set, inappropriate demands from adults in power, and how her identity was controlled for profit.
Stardom was never your dream. Whose dream was it?
My mom's. I think she wanted me to have a better life than she had, but I also think her approach was very unhealthy and informed by her own lack of self-work. And she lived vicariously through me.
It was bigger than just her. Jeanette revealed in her book that the creator of her show manipulated her to do things she wasn't comfortable with.
He reaches out and places his hand on my knee. I get goosebumps. You're cold, he says, concerned. I don't think that's why I got the goosebumps, but I agree. It's always best to agree with the creator. He pats my shoulders and then the pat turns into a massage. I want to say something, to tell him to stop, but I'm so scared of offending him. Come on, take a sip. No thanks. Come on. I've never had alcohol before, and I'm only 18. Couldn't I get in trouble? The Victorious kids get drunk together all the time. The iCarly kids are so wholesome. We need to give you guys a little edge.
Her revelations send chills down your spine, and she wasn't the only one to speak out against this system. Todd Bridges, star of Different Strokes, has also shared his own harrowing journey. Todd's life as Willis on Different Strokes seemed perfect on screen, but off screen it was anything but. Hollywood shocked the world. His efforts to expose predators have been met with resistance, but he refuses to stay silent. Now, Orlando Brown's story might seem erratic at first glance, but his claims about Disney and the exploitation he faced demand attention.
There's a lot of things that will make you buckle, bro. They make you buckle, bro. You know what I'm saying? Like, they make you start crying. Like, you know what I'm saying? What people do. Like,
so yeah, why would he say that? Shit, he said things that make you start crying that people do. And he's older now, but they started as children, right?
it's not no glory to be talking about. It's really
Right.
it's really Hollywood. It's really up out there. It's really up bad.
At just 8 years old, Brown started his acting career, stepping into the glitzy but risky world of Hollywood. His big break came with the movie Major Pain, and from there, he became a familiar face in hit shows like Family Matters, The Jamie Foxx Show, and That's So Raven.
I mean, today, donuts. Tomorrow, bagels. Make sure they're fresh, kid.
Whole fries?
Yeah. Great. No, snack time is anytime.
But acting wasn't his only passion. He also ventured into music, starting his own label, Young Star Entertainment, in 2005.
Just one shot is all I really need to bring it to your ankles and make you wiggle.
Back then, it seemed like he was on track for a bright and successful future. Unfortunately, the pull of fame and money took him in the wrong direction. By the time he was 20, Brown admitted to using and dealing crystal meth, a choice that led him into some dangerous territory.
In birthday presents, Paula Patton's Kiki Palmer's juice, Halle Berry's giving that chili from TLC.
As you can see, the dude is bugged out, right? Probably childhood trauma, you know. Most likely childhood trauma, obviously. You know, so, you know, I didn't have much to go in. This was part two. You know, I found out that I really wanted to see who produced the movies, and I found out that they was making a part 3 to that movie. So I just wanted to, you know, do a little something on there. You know, I can give you a end it off on this right here. You know, I mean, you can get Ecclesiastes 10. I was going to get, matter of fact, I think this is, okay. So Ecclesiastes chapter 10, verse 1 says, a wise judge will instruct his people, and the government of a prudent man is well ordered. As the judge of the people is himself, so are his officers, and what manner of man the ruler of the city is, such are all they that dwell therein. An unwise king destroyeth his people, but through the prudence of them which are in authority, the city shall be inhabited. The power of the earth is in the hand of the Lord Yahweh Bashmi Shah, and in due time he will set over it one that is profitable. So that's the point. It goes back to me in the beginning talking about these devils that control and run the world, right? The small hatters, the 1948ers, right? Pursuant to Job 9:24, the earth is given into the hand of the wicked. They are the wicked, and they're unprofitable, you know, to the world. So in due time, you know, we know that Yahweh Shai is going to, you know, return, and the kingdom of Yahweh Shai, right? The kingdom of Yahweh Bashmi Shai will be set up, and we, the Israelites, will rule, right, and set things right. So, you know, Lord willing, we're edified from this lesson. Shalom to the hopeful elect, which consists of men, women, and children. Shalom.